Welcome to the Two Disabled Dudes podcast. We believe life is about how we react. We're live. Hey, welcome to the Two Disabled Dudes podcast. Thanks for joining us today. We were hoping to go live, Kyle, while we were traveling together.
That's right.
But the more we thought about it, the more we realized we can record anytime. You can't sightsee or experience another city like London, at any day. Like that's not normal. Yeah. So, unfortunately, time was packed. So we just said, we'll do when we get back.
You specifically were in London for like 3 days, and we're like, we don't need to use 2 hours of free time. Yeah. So,
and the reality of it is, not a lot of people would have been able to join us live. Yeah. London for California is 8 hours ahead, and for you, I guess that's 5.
Right.
So 7 o'clock at night, everybody would have been in the middle of their workday, and at 9 a.m., everybody would have been asleep. So there really wasn't. Yeah. There were a lot of reasons not to go live. So here we are in our respective studio spaces in Pennsylvania, and I'm in California. Kyle, update everybody. I've heard a little bit of the story, but you had some van drama recently.
Yeah, so I left for Europe 2.5 weeks ago, which I'll talk about in a little bit. But just before, 2 months before that, on June 8th, I was driving in Philadelphia and I hit a curb, and it caused some damage to my left front wheel. And the tire was still okay, so I was able to drive to the repair shop, to the dealership, and they looked at it and like it was so messed up, but they told me it was fine and just go. And so I drove home, and it was like I was hearing some noise from the front end, and like it did not look good. So I called, and I have this insurance for my tires and wheels, but apparently it only covers cosmetic thing. Like, so I bought this insurance, and because the tire was not losing air, they wouldn't replace the tire. So anyway, I called back and I'm like, there's something really wrong. Like, just give me new rim, please. So they ordered new rim. I took it back in, and they replaced the rim. And when they took off the wheel, they found even more damage. Oh. And when they dug a little deeper, they found even more damage. So eventually it turned out that they thought they might have to replace this thing called the strut tower. And he said that, because it was all bent, and he said to replace the strut tower, they have to cut the frame, replace the tower, and then weld it back together. And I was like, oh my gosh. So anyway, by this time, I'm going through insurance because it's way too expensive to just go out of pocket, right? And so anyway, eventually it turned out that things were so bent that it was making the strut tower look bent. And they ended up not having to replace the strut tower. So that was good. So they replaced all this stuff, the actual strut and all these parts that I didn't know what they do.
Of course.
So every time they did something, since I was going through insurance had to go and inspect to make sure they were doing it all right, and like they were spending the money okay, whatever, all this stuff. So by the time this all finished, it was a month and a half later. I think I finally got my car back on July 8th, and the original damage was on June 8th. So anyway, that whole time I had no vehicle. I was working from home because usually I go into the office. I was working from home, and then like every once in a while, a coworker would give me a ride to work, or I'd ride my trike into work, and then like so it was, and I felt really isolated. It was like the pandemic again. I was like, "Am I on lockdown?" Right? Because I couldn't go anywhere.
Wow.
So anyway, it finally. So they gave me my car back. A couple days later, I'm like, "There's something wrong still," and I brought it back in. Uh, they the insurance just paid again. I didn't know how much this damage was. It was after I had brought it back. Like I could have not, but I brought it back because I was concerned. It was another $1,000 worth of damage
Jeez.
that they're like, oh, here, just take what? No. So anyway, it was a whole ordeal. I was so afraid that I don't know, whatever. It just had a pit in my stomach because, you know, I felt really dumb for this incident, and I was afraid that it was going to be like I just bought this car, right? In like
Yeah.
November. I haven't even had it a year, and I thought I had caused permanent damage that but anyway, it's driving well, and I'm relieved.
You're
So,
back in business.
yeah.
Okay, lesson learned. No texting and driving, especially when you use hand controls.
Seriously, since I got my car back, I haven't even turned my radio on. I'm like, all
Oh,
right,
wow.
just drive. Like that's all you
Yeah.
do. So,
No, I think to be fair, you weren't texting and driving, right?
right,
That
you're
wasn't
right.
like okay.
To be clear,
I wanted to make sure everybody knows I was just making a joke.
yeah.
But you're not guilty of that. Well, I'm glad you got your van back and things are in good repair.
Yep.
That's too much of a project to lose to a silly accident.
Right. Yeah. It was almost 2 years to get that van, right? I mean, you heard about it plenty of it during that time. And then, yeah, it was almost, it felt like part of it was gone, but I think we're back to 100% now.
Okay. Yeah, good. Well, hey, Kyle, and for those people tuned in and listening online, if they started thinking about what to talk about today, we recognize with especially our recent travels that community is the real flex. We often talk about independence and doing everything ourselves. And, I remember several episodes ago, we talked about the language people present. Do you need help versus would you like help or do you want help or can I help? Things like that. So there's a bit of a catch-22 sometimes where you realize or you think, I don't want help. I'm very independent. I'm going to do it on myself.
Yep.
But then there are other times you recognize we can't really do everything ourselves, and it takes a village, right? Our community is important. And I think that's true of any walk of life, right? With rare disease or disability, or just raising kids and balancing a job and family and hobbies and whatever else people are up against. We recognize that nobody is meant to do life alone. And Kyle, I know for me, on our recent trip, I I was just struck by the mentality in London at the airport with the airlines. Every
Yeah.
restaurant, every shop, the hotel, it was just a different world when it came to being aware of people in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
So I thought we'd talk about that for a little bit today. And I don't know, give a little bit of praise to how the community supports one another, but even just the smallest little things. But before we get into some of the details that stuck out to us, I wanted to give you a chance to recap your trip. I know you went over to Europe uh almost, oh, I guess a week before I did, spent some time in different countries with different folks that we're connected to with FA. So tell us a little bit more about your trip, and then we'll get into some of the things that stuck out to us.
Yeah, my thank you note a few weeks ago, it went out to someone named Marike, and she lives in the Netherlands, and she is involved with the advocacy group Stitching Fan, and it's Friedrich's Taxi in Netherlands. And so they have a group there, and they did a ride a taxi event. We gave them permission to use their brand, and they did an amazing job. There was like 200 people there. So that's the original reason I went over there. That's why I went so early, was to go to this ride, and it was on a Saturday, and there was 200 people there. Most of them were cyclists, just like everyday cyclists that were out for a good ride for a good cause. But there were a lot of FA families there too, and I met probably 4 or 5 people that I'd never met before. So that was really, really incredible and touching and meaningful. And I got to ride. I rode a Delta trike. I'd never ridden a Delta before, and so the one we ride, it's called a tadpole. It's got 2 wheels in the front and 1 wheel in the back. The Delta style, has 2 wheels in the back and 1 wheel in the front. So that was an interesting experience to try that out for like 10 miles. So that was really awesome. We toured
Just
the city
10 miles, huh?
yeah.
That's it.
I don't know that I would have been able to go more on the Delta, but so we toured the city of Eindhoven, and it was really incredible. Just to have a nice, relaxing day with like 4 or 5 people from the FA community. It was super cool. And then I headed to Belgium, where we have a research site at a hospital in Belgium, in Brussels. And my colleague Miriam lives there as well. And so she picked me up from my hotel in the Netherlands, and we went to Brussels. We met with a neurologist there, super awesome, and doing some really, really cool work, where he has a study that it explores the effect of electric brain stimulation on the cerebellum. So, like, the cerebellum, one of its roles is to limit, like, your movements. So when you reach for whatever, a cup of water, it tells your hand when to stop. Like, it puts the limits on those things. And this electric stimulation has proven to be effective in helping the cerebellum with that function. And so they're on their second part of the study. Anyway, so that was really cool. Then we went to Paris. We took a train to Paris, and we had lunch with a couple of people in the FA community, the leader of the Greek organization and the vice president of the French organization. Really awesome. Then I spent 2 days in Paris by myself. I would recommend bringing somebody with you if you're gonna go to Paris, but it was really awesome.
Wait, tell us why. Why do I need somebody if I'm going to Paris?
So I saw all the sites, right? I saw the Louvre, and I went to Notre Dame, which was really awesome. But then I went to like the Eiffel Tower. and there's tons of couples there, like, loving it and being lovers, right? And I'm
Yeah.
there by myself, like, taking photos and selfies with the Eiffel Tower and stuff.
Okay, so would it have been like? Are you saying take a lover or take someone? Like, would it have been a similar experience if it was, say, you and your dad, or you and me? Like,
That's a good question. All right. So I think there are tiers. Like the lowest tier is not going at all.
Okay,
And like, all
sure.
right. So and then the next one is by yourself. The next one is with your dad. And the next one is with your lover. So
Okay. So, best case scenario, you go there. I mean, isn't Paris the city of lovers, or kind of known
yeah,
for that
totally.
romantic life? Okay. So, take a lover. I don't know. I'm really curious to hear what other people think. I've never been, but I do have friends that are flight attendants and go to Paris regularly.
Yeah.
And as far as I know, they don't have a significant other.
Hmm.
So I wonder if their experience is different, maybe because they're avoiding the Eiffel Tower, or I
Yeah.
wonder.
Yeah.
I wonder what, as somebody who's single and loves being independent and the freedom being single allows. I
That's
I would go even by myself, and
That's
I don't
true.
know. I think I
There's
might
lots
enjoy
of
it.
aspects of Paris and lots of things to see and do, food and whatever else that are not like for lovers or whatever,
Sure.
right? And so, I mean, partly you're right. There were just times where I was like, what? Like I felt a little out of
Huh.
place because I wasn't
Yeah.
with someone, you know.
I gotta say, Ryan from Oregon is online right now. Thanks, Ryan, for being here. And Uncle Steve, I see you're here as well, and a few others. Ryan says, I skipped Paris because I was in Europe alone at the time.
Yeah,
So Ryan seems to align with your train of thought. If you're alone, maybe it's not as special a
well,
place.
the thing though is, all right, now that we're getting into this, I described the tiers, right? And the lowest tier is not going at all. And I think I stick by that. I'm glad I went, but
Sure.
it would have been better with someone else.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Fair. All right, keep going. So from Paris, what happened after that?
I flew to Northern Ireland and I hung out with my friend Barry, and
How
we
cool.
invited our friend Porga up and had a really awesome time. I hadn't seen them
Nice.
I think we're established it was like 6 years or something. I meant to go there during the pandemic, like in 2020, but
Yeah.
obviously that didn't work out, and it took me 5 years to figure out how to get back. And just reconnecting, it was so awesome to reconnect, and like it was like we hadn't missed a beat. It was 6 years later, and we just picked up where we left off,
Yeah.
and we didn't even do anything. It was raining. I was only there for one day. It was raining. So we didn't even, like, we just sat
Wow.
and chatted and drank beer. Like,
Yeah.
it was the best. So,
That's cool. Love that.
then after that, I went down to London. I got there 2 days before you did. And I met with a couple of friends, my friend George, and then I met with the taxi at UK the next day. Super cool. And
Mm.
then I believe you showed up the next day, and it was downhill from there on out.
Yeah. Yeah, downhill. Awesome. Hey, I want to go back. You mentioned Barry, and although he and I have never met, we've been connected online for a long time. In fact, you and I interviewed him on the
Yeah.
show here very early on. I just
Yep.
looked it up. Episode 46. 7.
Oh my gosh.
That was a long time ago.
Does it have the date on there?
You know, let's see. I'm sure it does. I didn't look at that. 47 looks like it was somewhere around June of 2018,
Oh my gosh, yeah.
right?
And we interviewed him because he started a ride fundraiser, awareness raiser for FA in Ireland. He used to live in Dublin. And the ride was called Cycle a Taxi, and they had I think 4 or 5 years of just really incredible rides with lots of people
Wow.
and lots of awareness and fundraising. So that was what we interviewed him about.
I love that you were able to connect and hang out with so many friends in the community. That's cool. You know, I didn't experience Europe like you did on this particular trip. You know, my entire time was just 3 nights in London. It was a very quick trip for me. But there were so many things that jumped out to me or stuck out to me while in London that really impressed me with
Yeah.
the mentality or the way society sees disability, or at least in my opinion, the way disability is or was perceived. I was blown away. I was
Yeah,
impressed.
I was
You know,
too.
I often hear about and read stories about older countries. Places that have been around for hundreds of years, if not thousands. You know, being a bit old school, being historic and cobblestone and uneven, just
Right,
not very
right.
accessible. And to an extent, there's some truth to that. But I was blown away with how, at least in London, they have gone out of their way to make the old buildings and the weird spaces as accessible as possible.
Right. Yeah, I agree. You know, one of the things I was reflecting on, and one of the things you're getting at, is that, like, before I left and went to Europe, I obviously use a wheelchair, and we're in a community where a lot of people use wheelchairs. And so some people said to me as I was leaving for Europe, they said, we don't have the ADA over here, so it's not as good as it is in the US. And I was reflecting on that after getting back and thinking to myself that, like, the mentality and the attitude of the people was the
Yeah,
difference maker, right? They're like,
very, very
whatever it
different.
takes, let's get it
Yep.
done. We see you and we want you here. And I think that the ADA and the standard, sometimes can encourage people to do the bare minimum to, like, meet that, instead of truly being like, you know what, let's get this done, because I feel like people should belong.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, before we get too far into the topic, I do want to remind the handful of people that are joining us live. We welcome your comments, your observations. If you have questions, feel free to type it up. If you're on a laptop or a desktop and you want to come in and share a story, we have the ability to throw you on camera as well if you're interested in doing that. Not required, but we certainly encourage your participation. You know, Kyle, you said something that jumped out to me. It really is mentality. The well, there were two things that jumped out to me. One, you and I took off couple hours the 2 days I had a little bit of free time. One day we got on a boat and just cruised the river. Another day we used cabbies or a taxi. And the two things that stuck out to me was the day we wanted to go find a real legit pub and have a pint and
Yeah,
and
yeah.
eat lunch. We ended up some little walkway alley. We thought it was the coolest looking pub. It was kind of off the beaten path, but not at the same time. And as we rolled up to the door, you took a picture of it. It was called Walker's, the pub.
Which is
And
ironic or something.
yeah. And on the door, like in the tile on the floor, they wrote, you know, the name of the place, Walker's. And you made the joke, like, obviously to get in the building with steps, it was meant for people that are able to walk, not people that are in
Yeah.
rollers or, really. And we kind of looked around at the couple doors and realized there probably isn't a way in here. And right about then, an employee saw us. And Kyle, I gotta point it out, this employer was, I would guess, early to mid 20s, maybe
Yeah.
mid to late 20s.
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
And he was like, "Oh, you want to come in? I have a ramp." And it probably took 3 minutes, maybe 4, just to get the ramp.
Right.
And then the guy struggled to figure out how to use the
Yeah.
ramp. But the entire time, he was very much, at least it seemed, that he was happy to figure it out.
Yeah.
Like he had
Yep.
zero hesitation with how annoying and weird it was folding and unfolding. And it was just, it wasn't a burden for him.
Right.
At least
Right.
that was my perception. You don't get that kind of vibe in the United States. It's
Yeah.
very much like, oh, this right here is our accessibility. If this doesn't work, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
It's that kind of attitude that did not seem to exist in the pubs and the cabbies on the boats. Anything we did, anywhere we went, I feel like that mentality did not exist.
Yeah, and Sean, that is so worth something because say in that interaction, okay, so what happened is that we ended up going somewhere else. And the guy was really sorry. He really wished he could have made it work. And we felt that, right? And we're like, dude, don't worry about it. Like, we really appreciated that he was so nice and he really gave his best effort at getting us in there. But contrast that with if he was like, oh nope, I can't do it, and he didn't put any effort, and like we had perceived that he was like, you guys should just leave, like you don't belong here, it's way different. Like the result is exactly the same. We went somewhere else. However, the guy's attitude made all the difference. We still had a great day. That guy, I'm sure he felt fine about it because we tried to we made sure to tell him, no worries, like you're fine, because we really appreciate the effort. So that makes all the difference, I think, just the attitude.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like most of the time what I would have expected is more of a question. Like, oh, you want to come here? So I need to grab the ramp. Do you want me to grab the ramp so you can come in?
Yeah.
It's questions like, well, what do you think I want you to do? Like, I can't come in if you don't grab the ramp.
Right.
So you're 100% right. The result was the same, and it wasn't due to effort. The guy, he tried 2 different doors. In fact, another patron, a local who just happened to be there having lunch, stood up to help and manhandled the ramp. It's a pretty big ramp, but unfortunately, the way the building was set up, there was like 2 sets of stairs separated by a landing, and the ramp wasn't quite long enough to cover both spans, and it was awkwardly too long to cover one span at a time. It wasn't really their fault. They might think about a different ramp, but whatever. Like, the effort was so pure
Totally.
and
Yeah.
authentic.
It was a very similar experience with cabs.
Yeah.
First of all, every single black cab has a ramp. Like,
Yep.
just that is
Yep.
unheard of. Like,
Yep.
if you go to New York City, like, Ryan's commenting about in the chat, if you go there, there's like 4 accessible cabs in the whole
Yeah.
city, right? Every single one there was accessible, and we took 2, you and I together, and the first guy was so nice and accommodating and squeezed us both in with both our wheelchairs. Was really amazing. And I thought to myself, I'm like, this guy is really nice. Like, this is an anomaly. Like, there's no way the next guy is going to be that nice. Then it happened again. Same exact
Yep.
thing. And it was not only the physical ramp on the cab, but also the attitude. It was just an amazing experience. So,
Yeah, you would think, given how many cabs there are, like, I feel like every other car was a cab. You know, probably similar to New York City, although I've never really hung out there long term. There people don't drive. Like, there's just public transportation, cabbies that make life so much easier, bikes, etc. So I felt like there was a cabbie every 2 or 3 cars. And the fact that every single one is built with
yeah.
disability in mind. In fact, it's not about they had to pull over and rearrange a couple things and then it's accessible. Literally, the cabs are set for a wheelchair.
Yeah.
And if you happen to be walking or not needing accessibility, it works for you too.
You're
But
not going to notice. Yeah.
yeah,
It's
it's just a lot of leg room. What I loved about the first cab, and even true of the second one, you know, your wheelchair is a little bit longer than mine. It's motorized. It's a little heavier. I use a manual chair when I travel. Right. Well, we weren't sure. You know, once you got in, we're looking at it. We're like, there's probably not enough space for for my chair as well. I'll just meet you there. And the driver was like, no, there's plenty of room. Let's figure it. Let's give it a go. And
yeah.
I just remember that energy. He was like, does it just asking questions? Does it come apart? Can you like all these things to make it doable? And it took a few minutes, but he didn't seem to mind. He was
Totally.
happy to help, and it's again the energy is just completely different.
A couple things would have happened in some other place, including the U.S. First of all, we hail a cab, and the guy tries not to look our direction and just ignores it like he doesn't see it, right?
Yep.
So that's one thing. The second thing is, as soon as you said, "Oh no, I'll just get another one, no worries," he would have been like, "All right, sweet, I don't have to deal with this anymore."
Yeah, sounds good.
But this guy, like, not only did he stop, but he put in the extra effort to make our day and to make, like, we reduced our fare by half just from this guy. So, yeah.
And the second guy, we had separated a little bit trying to get a cab back because going back was a lot harder, right? We were in a very popular touristy area. So it took a few efforts to flag one down. And the cabbie saw you first and pulled over right by me. And he rolled down the window and he's like, "Hey, are you two together?" And I'm like, "Yeah, do you think you can squeeze both of us in?" He's like, "Yeah, let's try it."
Yeah.
So, same energy. He was like, let's figure it out. I think you're right. Most people would have been like, "Oh, 2 of you? I don't think I can handle 2 of you."
So Ryan put in the chat, was it the same all over or just London. And so I will say the Netherlands, in Holland, when I was there, their main mode of transportation, it's bicycle. And
Mm.
the city that we're in, especially the part of the city, I got a recommendation from Marike, who is also a wheelchair user. And so all the places we went were very accessible, and it was great. In Paris, I had mentioned that I was there by myself. Paris, they have this app. It's the G7 app. That's their cab system. And you can order an accessible G7 cab for a reasonable price. And I never waited for more than like 4 minutes. Because
Wow.
they're like, it's a similar, like, it's a different setup, but it's a similar thing where, like, if there was not a wheelchair user in the cab, like, nobody would even know. But they can take wheelchairs, so it was great in Paris too. I mean, I'm sure there's lots of cities that are not, because you know what? Partly these things cost a lot of money, and it was clear to me that the city of Paris and the city of London spent a lot of money and focus on making things available to everyone. And that's not always possible everywhere in the world. So,
You know what I'll point out about London, you almost think, with the cabs and the ramps and the extra effort, you would think, oh, there's probably a lot of people here in wheelchairs, right? And I don't know what the numbers are, but Kyle, I didn't see a handful. It wasn't like every other person was in a wheelchair, but they certainly had that mentality
right.
of uh, everybody's going to be in a wheelchair, so let's just be prepared.
Well, and
And
go ahead.
it was just mind blowing to me because it's easy to think, oh, it must be a very wheelchair user heavy area, and I didn't get that impression. They're
Yeah.
just heavily prepared just in case.
Yeah, even the second cab that we took, he commented. He's like, I don't know what's up today, but like, I haven't had a wheelchair in weeks, and now today I've had like 4. And there was no animosity or anything, and he was just stating it, right. And like, he was surprised at how few he's had lately and whatever. So that was cool that they're just always ready for it.
Speaking of mindset and the energy, I want to point out another one. This one sticks out to me because it wasn't just London. This kid was from Portugal,
You're right.
and he was visiting London at the same time we were. But the kind of attitude and energy he offered isn't
Yeah.
nothing I would ever see or expect in America. In fact, I would be shocked to get that kind of support in America. You and I had just gotten off a boat. There's river. How do you say the name of that river?
I think it's called the Thames River.
Sure. But this river, it kind of runs through the city of London, very much a part of the city's identity. There's a million bridges, and the river life is very exciting and beautiful. Anyway, we got off this boat, completing a couple hours of touring around, and to get from the river up to the roads, there's huge, long inclines, right? Uphills.
Yeah.
And easier for you because
Right.
you're in a motorized wheelchair. Not so easy for me because I'm manual. Anyway, we start going, and I just remember hearing you saying something like, "Hey, I'll push from behind, or do you want to hang on the back and I'll drag you up?"
Yeah.
And right
yeah.
about then, we had passed by this teenager a minute or maybe 40 seconds prior, and he said hello as he walked by. It appeared to be he was getting on the boat, right? He was gonna begin his touring. And all of a sudden, he comes up and he kind of gets between us, like, "Oh, excuse me, I got it." Kind of pushed his ear out of the way, and he says, "Let me push you." And I'm turned around and I'm like, "What?" He's like, "I got you." It was obvious that he was there to help. And he started pushing me, and I asked, like, "Oh, where are you from?" And we had a brief conversation, but he's like, "Oh, I'm from Portugal, visiting London for the week." And he apologized. He's like, "My English is not so good." And I'm like, "Bro, your energy is better
Right.
than any American I
Yeah,
know."
yeah.
I am so grateful, and it was quite a walk. Like he left his friends for a minute just to help us or me get to the top of the ramp area, and I was blown away. And this kid
Yeah.
was, I'm gonna guess, 15
That was my guess
ish.
too, yeah.
Like I might get that from a grown adult, a 45-year-old who happens to notice. But most kids that age, I don't even think would notice somebody in a wheelchair,
Right.
much less be willing to just jump in and help
Yep.
without being asked or without even hesitating. Um, so I don't know what it's like in Portugal, but that kid makes me want to
Yeah.
visit Portugal.
Hopefully there's more of those kids there, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I have a quite a few other examples, Sean. But I
Okay.
also see the time ticking away, 40 minutes. And that's kind of what we shoot for, right? So I'll let you take the lead, but I mean, I think we the takeaway is that it's just amazing to have the attitude and just to get it done, even if there
Yeah.
is no ADA or whatever, like just to have that sensibility.
Yeah. Yeah, attitude makes a big difference. My last one, I'll just give a little shout out. 'Cause everybody knows I'm a fan of Starbucks, and there was a Starbucks close to the hotel, and it was not accessible. There was, a 3-inch step or whatever, and I rolled over the first time and realized, "Oh, shoot, I can't get over that, not in my wheelchair." And there was a button on the door that said, if, with the handicap picture or disabled image of a wheelchair, press this button for help. And I was staring at it like, do I really want to press that
Yeah,
button? Do
yeah.
I really want help? Is it really that important?
What am I getting myself into here?
Yeah, like, what does that look like? What does that, what does it mean? And right about then, as I was contemplating, a Starbucks employee came to the door and was like, "You want to come in here? Give me just a moment. Let me get the ramp." Like, I didn't have time to answer the question, "Yes, I'm going to come in," or "No, I'll go somewhere else." It was very much like, "Oh, hey, if you're coming here, give me just a minute. I'll get the
Yeah.
ramp."
Yeah.
And again, she just jumped right to it to make it happen. And I was impressed. You don't get that
Yeah.
everywhere, and I just wanted to give a quick shout out. I was still able to get my Starbucks
Nice.
because they were so willing to do whatever it takes to help. Oh, you know what? Shoot, Kyle, there's one more. I
Yeah,
gotta
yeah.
say this because it was mentality,
Yeah.
100%. When we went out for dinner, we had a couple colleagues that were helping push and navigate. And what I realized, Kyle, was most people, I felt like maybe all people, as we approached with the wheelchair, and this was even true at the airport, people would look at me or see us coming, and they would say, "Oh, I'm sorry," and they would step out of the way.
Right.
And I had never experienced that. At least here in the States, it's you've got to tap people on the shoulder
Yeah.
or the hip, or be like, "Oh, excuse me, I'm coming through. Hey, pardon me." But
Right.
most of the people that we passed, they were almost apologizing for being in my way, as
Yeah.
if it was my world, and
Yeah.
they were in my way,
And
and that
they
was
would
mind blowing.
actively like tap all their other friends and be like,
Yeah,
"Hey, look out." Yeah.
move. Yeah, it's just a whole nother world. So London and the English people, I salute you.
Yep.
Portugal
Yep.
too.
And the Netherlands and Paris and yeah.
Impressive. Well, God, like to say, we've been going for a minute. I will wrap up with this thought of gratitude for the community. We have so much help from total strangers, from the folks that we happen to be meeting up with in London, or just all around surrounded by people that didn't seem to be bothered by the extra effort it took to serve food or to grab coffee, or to help us get comfortable, or help us go
Mhm.
from one end of a building to another. And that kind of energy just makes all the difference in our world. So I'm incredibly grateful for the support and the way the community just pays attention. There's nothing like it when somebody just steps forward and does a thing for you,
Yeah.
instead of asking or waiting for you to struggle, and then maybe they step up, which I feel like is more common in the States. So, um, just super impressed with the way the world views disability abroad.
Yep. Yep.
Not in America, but the other parts of the world.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and it's something we can all learn from and take away and put into action, I think. Yep.
We got a couple comments. Adam loved Amsterdam. Ryan wants to know if we've ever talked about how FA affects emotions. We'll get back to you on that, Ryan. I feel like we have, but I don't know the episode numbers off the top of my head. And Howard, thanks for tuning in today. And he says thank you for sharing your experiences while abroad.
Nice.
Um,
Howard, can you tell us where you're from? I think I know who you are, but and if anyone else wants to tell us where you're from too, that's always fun to know where people are tuning in from. Yep. Hey, Howard. Thanks for tuning in. Howard from Pennsylvania. Awesome. Bay
oh,
Area.
sweet.
I think I know
Adam,
who
Bay
that is
Area.
too.
All
Yeah.
right.
So cool.
Very cool. Sweet. Well, Kyle, let's wrap this up.
Yeah. Um, I have
Laurel's in Ohio. Sorry.
oh, yeah,
We got
there we
another
go.
one.
Hey, Laurel.
Thanks, Laurel.
Um, I have a thank you note if you don't mind, Sean. So
No, please. That's how we wrap up every
that's
episode.
right.
So
That's right.
please
Um,
go for it.
so as I was describing, I mentioned my colleague Miriam. Miriam Ray, she lives in Belgium. She's been part of the FA community, scientific community for a long time. She was at dinner with us. We all went to dinner the night before the riot attacks in the Netherlands. And we're sitting there, and there's people from multiple different countries. And, Miriam is speaking Dutch on her left, and she's speaking German on her right, and she's speaking English
Gee.
to me across the table. And she also speaks Spanish and couple other languages. So
Jeez.
French and Arabic, and I might be missing one. But anyway, just
think
really
we get
cool.
the point.
Yeah, we get the point, right? Not only does she have the skills to like communicate with everyone, but the heart to do it as well. And she just really cares. And so my thank you note goes up to Miriam, not only for showing me around and making arrangements for a lot of my stuff, but also just for being there for our community.
Awesome. Thank you, Marilyn. Sorry, Miriam.
Yeah.
The reason why I said Marilyn, we actually got another comment here.
Oh.
Marilyn talks about British
Oh, yeah.
experience in Italy being very similar to what we just talked about in London and around Europe. So a shout out to the folks in Italy too for just having the get it done mentality, whatever it takes energy. So thank you, Marilyn, for tuning in today and giving us telling us that story too. My thank you, Kyle, is going out to United Airlines. As you and many of our listeners know, I don't have a problem complaining.
Oh, really?
I'm okay with being honest and letting people know how I feel, especially when it comes to service businesses in the service industry. Well, this was probably the first time in a long time I flew at United. And I gotta tell you, they might have a new they might be at a different tier with me now. I don't remember having a negative experience in the past. I just was never they were never awesome. But bro, both flights there and back, impressed with the level of service, the way they talked, the way they handled my wheelchair and helped me on and off the plane, whether it was my domestic connection here in the States or the overseas, just really impressed with the crew and the way they approached me and helping and just all things involved in traveling with the wheelchair. So United has, they have a different level of clout with me right now. So
they have a new fan,
United.
a new super fan.
Yeah. I don't know about super fan. I won't go that far yet. But we're definitely, I put them up there with an airline of choice if I were, needing to go someone outside of Southwest.
Nice. I like it.
So thank you, United. We are so thankful that you're listening and we're having a blast with these live episodes. So please be sure to tell your friends all about the podcast and encourage them to join us as well. We'll be going live again next on Sunday, October 5th, which happens to be Kyle's birthday. So you can join me live in celebrating his birthday. In the meantime, we encourage you to subscribe to our newsletter, which you can find on our website. Follow us on social media to stay connected. Until next time, keep living with urgency.
Thank you for listening to the Two Disabled Dudes podcast. This show is possible with your support. Visit twodisableddudes.com to stay connected.
Find us on Facebook and Instagram. And be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast player.